Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris,
And I'm Chelsea.
and today we're talking about week 13 of the NFL season. Chelsea, how you doing today? How's it going for you?
Chris, I'm good today. I'm repping my OG Christian McCaffrey jersey, showing the Panthers some love because they need it after that game on Sunday.
We're not
You
doing a
think
section on that today, so we're
Rip
not going to
Joey
talk about
Sly, the amount of hate he took on socials this weekend was just immeasurable. I'm here for you, Christian. Your team will be good soon, I promise.
it. Just give it some time, right? Well, we've got some good headlines today, some good things to go over. So, Chelsea, why don't you start us off with going over the Browns and Jags today?
All right, so Browns and Jags. No one watched this game if you're in North Carolina because it wasn't on TV. Honestly, it's probably a good thing that you didn't. The Browns are what last week they were, I think, 6-3. They are a playoff hopeful in the AFC, and they only beat Jacksonville by 2, which is the second worst team in the NFL. So if I were a Browns fan, I wouldn't be feeling real good about this game, but we're going to dive into it. So, Browns barely beat the Jags. Baker Mayfield, guys, you had to see this throw. You had to see this throw on Twitter. Did you guys see the Baker Mayfield throw where he overthrew the widest open receiver you will ever see in the NFL? Did you see that, Chris?
I didn't, but
Oh my gosh. Top 10 most horrible passes I've seen in my life. Terrible.
wow.
Guy was wide open. He overthrew him. This leads into my first point. Is Baker Mayfield undercover trash? Because honestly, I don't know. He's played some pretty bad games this season, and he's played some pretty good games. I think at the very least, we can say that he's not living up to the expectations he had on him based on where he was drafted, because he was a really high pick. So I think at least he's not living up to that. His stats for the year: 2,108 yards, 17 touchdowns, 17 picks at this 68.6 QBR, which honestly isn't spectacular. I mean, he is 17 for 7, which is almost 2-1, which, like, yeah, is it double what he has? Yeah, but even still. So, Nick Chubb in this game, good as always, 19 carries, 144 yards, and a touchdown. Shout out to Nick Chubb for coming off IR and starting for my fantasy team. Really appreciated that, buddy. Jarvis Landry making up for the loss of Odell Beckham Jr., 8 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. He's looking good. Still playing well, even with Odell out, so I'm sure that's reassuring for the Browns. Also, I think the Browns' defense is suspicious, along with Baker Mayfield. They let up 25 from the Jaguars, whose top receiving threat is Laviska Shenault. Not that he's bad, but he is a rookie. I'm just saying. Are they really an intimidating team in the AFC? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Harrison Bryant, the tight end on the Browns, had a fumble. On the other side, starting for the Jaguars this game, not good old Gardner Minshew. No, Mike Glennon had a game. 20 of 35, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I couldn't even tell you the last time Mike Glennon started a game. I honestly have no idea. He had a game. James Robinson had a game also, 22 carries, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, looking like one of the best rookie running backs in this class when undrafted. Looking better than Jonathan Taylor, looking better than Edwards-Helaire right now. He's looking pretty good. So shout out to the Jaguars for actually picking someone decent after the draft, because we know that never happens. Colin Johnson, wide receiver, Jacksonville. Never heard of this guy in my life. The Jacksonville Jaguars are in my conference. Never heard of this guy. 4 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. So shout out for this guy for being good against the Browns. And poor Aldrich Rosas went 2 of 3 in this game. Their kicker, if he had made all 3 field goals, Jaguars would have won. So that's unfortunate. But anyways, Browns still won, still got the victory. I'm just saying, looking a little suspicious that the Browns only beat the second worst team in the NFL by 2. Like, I get that they're an NFL team, and I get that any team can win any week, but we all know that Jacksonville is pretty bad. So it'll be interesting to see the course that the Browns take as the season continues. But let's move on to your segment, Chris. What you got for us?
Oh man. Well, I'd like to start out with a strange one that happened this week, and I think a lot of people who follow the NFL definitely found it as strange. I want to talk about the Saints at Broncos. So,
Rip.
the score in this game was not interesting at all, but just the story behind this game, it was so odd. So, the Saints ended up winning 31-3. It was a pretty much a blowout for most of the game, but what happened was, according to ESPN.com, Drew Lock, Brian Ripien, Blake Bortles, all three are their backup QB or the QBs for the Broncos were out for COVID. And so apparently what had happened was they weren't following mass procedures or the NFL's procedures on COVID-19, and the three quarterbacks were not, they weren't following protocol. So they were not able to play this past Sunday. And so the Denver Broncos called up practice squad wide receiver / quarterback Kendall Hinton, who
And where did he play, Chris?
he played at Wake Forest, which now that's like my college team. So I knew him and I'm like, hey, I know that guy. I remember him. And I got to be honest, he actually in college did a fairly decent job at playing quarterback. He just had some injury problems that really halted his progress. But his senior year, he eventually switched to receiver, and he was able to finish his senior year with over 1,000 yards receiving.
It's pretty good.
Incredibly athletic guy. What's I think with this game, it's not necessarily like hit and play. He did not play well. He was 1 for 9 with 2 INTs. But I think the thing is, a lot of people are just going to look at that and maybe just chalk it up to, oh, well, he sucks then. But if you look at everything that kind of went on with this game, the man had 24 hours or less than that even to get ready for playing one of the best defenses in the NFL. This man was working a sales job earlier in the month. And
Wild.
now, I mean, he was on the practice squad, but I think people don't understand, like, practice squad people make good money as long as they're in the if they're playing or set to be able to potentially play. A lot of times practice squad guys, like, they'll make a lot of money one week and then they may not make any the next week. So they have to get other jobs to make sure that they can still feed themselves and take care of themselves. Kendall Hinton, I mean, he made a good $35,000 from this one game.
Oh, yeah.
Which is crazy. But is it also not the most 2020 matchup to have Kendall Hinton versus Taysom Hill at quarterback? Taysom Hill didn't even play that well, but they won the game. And so it is just a wild mess. And you could tell Hinton definitely, he was having trouble. Denver ran a lot of wildcat plays. They didn't let him throw the ball that much. And I mean, this guy doesn't have much experience with his team, like his receivers, or he hasn't been studying film, so he has no idea what the Saints could throw at him. I mean, some people might say, well, then they don't know what to throw at him, but I think in this case this hurts Kendall's potential to do well more than the Saints. And it showed. Kendall, I don't think he's bad. I think he's playing a little bit out of position here, because I do think he's a really good wide receiver, or he could be a decent wide receiver for a team. Maybe some teams will look at him. But I think this is kind of a cool story. He went to living his NFL dream just in a matter of 24 hours. I mean, that's crazy.
One could argue that this was a matchup of two quarterbacks that aren't actually quarterbacks.
Like I said, what a 2020 matchup. But I guess this does kind of bring into question something I wanted to ask you, Chelsea. Do you think the NFL should have postponed this game like they did the Steelers and Ravens?
This question has been asked by so many sports personalities on so many major networks this week. I was watching Scott Van Pelt last night. I was watching ESPN and NFL Primetime, NFL Live, pregame for NFL football on Monday. And basically, side note, so Adam Schefter is the one who's headlining all of these things, right? And he got into like a testy conversation with Steve Young on live TV about whether or not this game should have been canceled. And honestly, I thought it was kind of hilarious. But I will say, so apparently the NFL's protocols with COVID is that if it's contained, they still play the game, right? So the only people on the Broncos who had COVID confirmed were the quarterbacks, right? With the Steelers Ravens game, they had positive cases week after week, day after day. And by the time they were supposed to play their game, half of the Ravens offense was out. Or maybe it was the day after that. I know it started out with Ingram and Dobbins, but at least a few days after that, Lamar got it, a couple other people. Mark Andrews has it, who, side note, has type 1 diabetes. So hopefully it doesn't actually affect him that bad because he actually does have an underlying condition. But so, like I said, the protocol is if you can control it, stop it, then you can still play the game, which is what happened with the Broncos game. With the Steelers Ravens, that hadn't happened, which is why they postponed it over and over and over. They had been trying to figure out where the virus came from. They had been trying to figure out who had it, who didn't. I'm sure everyone got tested like a billion times. So I think that there is a difference. But the fact that the Broncos didn't even have a quarterback, that just kind of speaks to some bias, in my opinion. Like, I understand the protocols. I understand why they have postponed the Ravens. And I understand why they didn't postpone the Broncos. But let's look at it this way. Which game are they going to get more revenue from? Saints Broncos with no starting quarterbacks, or Ravens Steelers without Lamar Jackson? Let's be real honest. This is not about, oh yeah, we didn't push back the Broncos game because it was contained. Honestly, it's probably more about just making money, because more people are going to watch a penultimate AFC East or AFC. What is it? They're not the East. Are they the West?
I can't exactly
AFC
remember.
North.
AFC North. There you go.
People are going to watch an AFC North matchup without Lamar Jackson more than they're going to watch Taysom Hill play a quarterback-less Broncos. So it just kind of feels biased from an objective opinion because those teams are more popular. Broncos have had a bad season. They don't really have much to watch on their team anyways. For most viewers, most people don't know who their players are. You go to the other matchup, everyone knows, right? They moved the game 3 or 4 times, I think, because it was supposed to be on Thursday. Then they were going to move it to Sunday. Then they were going to move it to Monday. And now it's on Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon. Who was going to watch a football game on a Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon? Everyone's going to be at work. So like they move this game to 3:40 in the afternoon when everyone's at work, but they don't move a Broncos game in which they have 0 chance of winning. I don't know. Just seems biased to me. Like they didn't even have a chance. How can you win without an actual quarterback? I understand not having a wide receiver or a running back or a tight end. Like that's different. But like a quarterback, no NFL team is going to win a game without a quarterback. And they didn't. They got dismantled as everyone thought that they would, considering their quarterback wasn't even a real quarterback. I don't know. Personally, I think they should have pushed it. And some people were like, well, they're punishing the Broncos because they didn't follow protocols. Well, that's fine, but the rest of the team followed the protocols. It wasn't the whole team that broke them. It was the quarterbacks. So punish the quarterbacks. Don't punish the whole team. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, if there's anything I did learn while playing sports in high school was that my coach would always say, you're a family. When one of you messes up, you all get impacted. So
and
if one person...
I understand that, but even still.
I see what you're saying. I think what'll be interesting is I understand the NFL, what they're saying here, but my question is, are they going to hold to this standard?
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's take in February or late January when the Super Bowl happens, right? Let's say it's Patrick Mahomes versus let's just throw out like Tom Brady and the Bucs, right? What if all of Kansas City's quarterbacks go out with COVID, and what if all of Tampa's quarterbacks go out with COVID? What would they do?
They're totally still going to play the game and still going to make billions of dollars even though they're out.
I mean, now it's the Super Bowl. People are going to watch it, but it's also kind of like, are they going to hold to their same standard as they did with this game?
Feels like a double standard because I think they'd push it. If Patrick Mahomes, who is literally the golden child of the NFL, couldn't play in the Super Bowl, I'd be real surprised if they played the game.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I wonder. And like the thing is, I think people would want them to push the game back. Like
I agree.
like people would want that to happen because they don't want to watch a crappy Super Bowl. I wouldn't blame them for doing that. And
Yeah,
what they should have done with this season is they really should have put more flexibility. It seems to me like they've tried to play this season as if it was completely normal and they didn't put any flexibility within the schedule. Whereas,
that's
in my
something that the
opinion,
broadcasters were talking about yesterday.
and so the problem is, like, since they should have extended the season longer to where it pours into other things. I know they don't want to go longer, but what you could do is you could have more space between games for more time for recovery from COVID. Now, I still think, all in all, like, this is still on the quarterbacks for not listening to the COVID protocols. Like, they need to be held
Absolutely.
responsible for this because they acted in a unsafe manner and it cost their team. So I'm still going to put some of the blame on them. But the NFL, if they are going to make this rule, I want to see them stick to it and not just cut out, whenever they want to, cut out games whenever they want to.
It just makes you wonder who they care more about, right? Do they care more about the people who actually have COVID, or do they care more about the owners and people watching so they make money?
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of, presents that question of like, who are you actually trying to protect? Like, are you trying to protect your players and your teams and the people that play in your league? Or are you just trying to protect owners and keep their pockets lined?
Yeah.
So I think it presents an interesting conundrum for sure because, I mean, like you said, the quarterbacks are at fault. It's one protocol. I get not wanting to do it anyways. It's whatever. But the whole team, they just got wrecked. Like, this is going to look bad for their head coach, who, like, can't even really be blamed because he didn't even have a competent starting quarterback. It's going to get blamed on their defense, who probably stayed on the field way longer because the offense couldn't do anything. Just like has a huge trickle down effect. I don't know. I think that, like, I get it. I get, like, you need to be punished if you don't follow it. Fine them. Move the game. Don't make a team play just because 3 people messed up. That's not really fair to everyone else.
I mean, the Saints are like, well, this is just an extra bye week for us. So, I mean,
Basically.
and in some ways it kind of, I mean, it's sad, but like, I mean, like I said, I like Kendall Hinton. I think he's a good athlete,
For
but there
sure.
was just, he had no chance of going into this game and really putting up like a winnable game. The NFL didn't give him a chance, and the coaches did their best with what they could, in my opinion. And I don't think he should be held to blame for this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, he had 24 hours.
If that,
Imagine just like working at Walmart or Target or Kohl's and the NFL calling you up and being like, hey, man, need you to start on the Broncos tomorrow. And you being like, what? I'm in Kansas.
a game against
Like,
against the Saints,
what?
by the way, not just like, not even
Yeah.
like the Jets or the Chargers or some team that's not good. No, you got to
And
play against one of the best teams in the NFL.
even though it's a Drew Brees-less team, he doesn't play for the defense. I don't know. I think it presents an interesting conversation. Like, I see where Adam Schefter is coming from, talking about like it being contained versus it not being contained and them trying to keep the league on track. But I think them trying to keep the league on track goes back to what you were saying about how they didn't schedule the season to be played like COVID is going to affect it. They're just like, oh yeah, we'll have 17 weeks. If games get moved, we'll just play like 3 games all at the same time on the same day because that's good coordination. No, I think they should have made it more flexible. Do we really think that America would have been mad to have more football, more weeks of football?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think so. If they had done that, they probably would have made even more money because it would have lasted longer. I'm just saying. It's an interesting conversation. Want to be followed as the season continues for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Broncos have a starting quarterback this week, which I think that they will. So, woohoo.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll have to see as this topic kind of goes on through the rest of the season. We don't have that much more to go, but there's still, quite a bit. And with playoffs coming up soon, you just got to look at this rule, and I'm going to be interested to see if the NFL will hold to their standard. Our next topic we got here, Chelsea, do you want to go over your next game you've got?
Yep. So, second game, Texans at Lions. The Lions are just bad. They're just really bad. The Lions have lost 5 straight games on Thanksgiving. Talk about a way to ruin your Thanksgiving. And they didn't even get giant turkey legs this year. Could it get any worse? I don't think
part
so.
of this whole thing, then.
Also, no. Also, Matt Patricia and GM Bob Quinn were fired. Didn't even last the whole season. If you're a Lions fan, I hope that you had a good Thanksgiving, because this was not a good day for Lions fans. The Texans are less bad with Bill O'Brien gone, but still bad. Watson is amazing as always against a abysmal Lions defense, going 7 of 25 for 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. Whoever had him in fantasy probably celebrated on Thanksgiving. But on the other side of that, Texans didn't really have a run game. They really only had 50 or 60 yards for the game, and they didn't have one guy who was over 50 yards by himself. So that's definitely a problem. Also, Texans, they lost Will Fuller and Bradley Roby to 6-game each suspensions for using banned substances, which is really a shame considering Will Fuller's stats in this game. He was 6 receptions for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. And to make matters even worse, this is a contract year for Will Fuller. So are they going to re-sign him? Who's going to be their wide receiver 1 if he's gone? Yeah, they have Kenny Stills, but is Kenny Stills a wide receiver 1 kind of guy at this point in his career? I don't think so. So do they re-sign him even after his issues? Do they not sign him because he used banned substances? I mean, I looked at his Instagram post where he announced it, and he said that he got bad advice / recommendation from a doctor who told him that the things that he was going to be putting in his body were fine in the NFL, and they weren't. And honestly, shame on that doctor for not knowing what or what not is allowed in the NFL when you have NFL players coming to you. But ultimately, he didn't force Will Fuller to take those things. He didn't force Bradley Roby to take those things. They made that decision, and they put what they wanted to in their body. So ultimately, they were going to pay the price for the suspension. Will Fuller's out for the rest of the year. Not like the Texans really had a chance of making the playoffs anyways, but it really is a shame because I cheer for Notre Dame, and he played for Notre Dame. He was really good. He's had injury problems, and he finally started to have a halfway decent year, and then he goes and gets suspended. So that's really a shame. On the defensive side for the Texans, J.J. Watt had a Thanksgiving pick 6, which you will not see very often from a defensive end. So good job, J.J. Watt. Stafford, he was mediocre. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. He was just a game manager, AP, he had 2 touchdowns. Hawkinson had 80-ish yards. Both had good games. Kerryon Johnson had a decent game. But Kerryon Johnson and Jonathan Williams both lost fumbles in this game, courtesy of the Texans defense. Nate Hall on the Texans defense had a 2-sack game. Honestly, not going to lie, never heard of him. But here we are, and he had 2 sacks. Great game for him. 4 sacks total for the defense. I mean, not really much else more to say. The Texans are not as bad without Bill O'Brien. They're still not great. And I think that this just really shows how bad the Lions are. Their defense needs some help. I mean, they just got shut out by the Panthers last week. They managed to score against the Texans this week, but the Texans aren't known for having a great defense, so that's not really too much of a compliment. And then there was that one Will Fuller touchdown where he was literally left wide alone in the end zone. Nearest defender was 15 yards away. So that's a busted coverage. So not a great look. Texans are still bottom feeders in the AFC South, as are the Lions. It'll be interesting to see what the Lions do with their offense after this season. Do they go out and trade for another quarterback? Do they let Matt Stafford go? Do they blow up their defense and start over? Who are they going to hire as a head coach? I don't know the answers to any of these questions, but it'll be an interesting storyline to follow as the season comes to a close and we enter into the playoffs.
Honestly, I think they need help at offensive line very
I
much
agree.
so, because
4
man,
sacks in one game, 2 from one guy. Poor Matt.
and the week before also sacked, I think, about 4 times or however many times it was bad. There's miscommunication, there's all these different things going on for the Detroit Lions offensive line, and I'm just like, maybe they need to invest into the offensive line this offseason. I don't know if that'll fix all their problems, but I mean, I really think they have some good weapons. They have Matt
On offense,
Stafford.
I agree. I mean, they have AP, they have Kerryon Johnson, they have Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, they have Hawkinson. So, I mean, it's not like they don't have offensive weapons. It's just he doesn't have any time to get the ball to them.
I agree. And so I think you could see some big changes. You've already seen some. I mean, GM and Matt Patricia fired, so they're already making changes. So this could be a big offseason for Detroit coming up. So next game here that I wanted to cover, well, game/topic, because there's a lot with this one. And in my opinion, I don't know if this is really a different take than most of the internet had for this game, but I want to talk about it. So let's talk about Chiefs playing at Tampa Bay. Well, Chiefs won this game 27-24, 3-point game. This is a battle between 2 potential Super Bowl teams. A lot of people picked Tampa to actually win it, and a lot of people picked the Chiefs to win the whole thing before the season started. Okay, so what I looked at with this game, and the problem I have with a lot of people's take on it, is that a lot of people just assumed that the Tampa Bay offense is just terrible and that everything is terrible, everything is going wrong in Tampa.
Everything is terrible.
It seems to me as if the world really thinks that everything's on fire in Tampa. And in some ways, I don't disagree. Bruce Arians and Tom Brady are seeming to have some problems with each other. Their biggest offensive problem to me has been the lack of connection on the deep ball. It seems to me like Bruce Arians was trying to throw too many deep balls through the beginning of this season and even the game before against the Rams, and they're just not working. The whole time I'm sitting there and just thinking they need to stop trying this. It's not working. Tom Brady needs to go back to a little bit of what he had at New England, which in my opinion, that's what eventually Arians switched to in the second half of this game. They were down 17-0 at one point, and they started making a real comeback, and the offense started to look good. Ronald Jones had some good runs, and Brady was making completions, but his 2 interceptions were not good. Now, one of them, a lot of people, you would argue that it was kind of a freak interception, but Brady threw it and it hit off the helmet of one of the defensive linemen for Kansas City, and it ended up in Tyrann Mathieu's hands. And okay, I'll chalk that one up to it happens. But there was
chalk it up to Tom Brady needing to be taller, but that's just me.
Well, the other interception he had, though, I mean, Tom Brady just made a huge play downfield, and then he tries to go deep again, and it doesn't work. It ends up in an interception, and it was a bad interception. So Tom Brady had 2 pretty bad interceptions. And yes, the Tampa offense looked bad, but also they looked bad at certain parts, but I would like to argue at the end of the game, they started to get things together. They started to dink and dunk more. They started to kind of go back to a little bit of that New England offense. Actually, even Tony Romo brought that up. That was in the broadcast, that he felt that they were starting to go back to, or Tom Brady was getting some similar looks that he was getting back at New England, and it started to move. And with about 4 minutes left in this game was 24-27. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, okay, Tampa can play offense. You can see it. And when they get it going, like, they can compete with anybody. But the defense wasn't able to stop Mahomes and Tyreek Hill.
As no
And
defense can,
I mean,
except the Raiders. Shout out to the Raiders.
and what's impressive to me, okay, one, we do have to talk a little bit, or I do want to bring this up. Tyreek Hill had a heck of a day. He was abusing the defense the entire game, ended up catching the game sealing catch as well. And I was just like, man, this guy, he's on another level when it comes to speed, route running, catching. He's up there.
Backflipping.
I mean, he's backflipping into the end zone, throwing up the peace sign to defenders. And so you got to look at this game and you got to say, what did we really expect Tampa to do in this game? Now, I think I even picked them last week to win. I kind of thought,
You
okay, maybe they
definitely
can.
did.
Yeah. And like, I think they could have definitely won that game. But in the end, like, I still expected the Chiefs to probably win that one. It wouldn't have surprised me. So, what I want to say with all of this is that the world is not on fire for Tampa, like some people think. They can still make the playoffs and they can still do something. I don't think they'll win the division because of losing to the Saints twice and then dropping these past two games. You're probably not going to win the division. And so I just personally look at this game and it was Kansas City's a better team. And I think most of us knew that. At this point in the season, Kansas City is a better team and they looked and played the part. And defense couldn't get a stop at the end. They had Mahomes 3rd and 8, and he converts it at the end of the game to Tyreek Hill. Ball game's over.
Because of course he does.
And maybe if you stop that pass, you get the ball back. Maybe Brady's able to do something. Maybe. Now, losing to the Rams last week, I know they had a chance to win the game. Brady throws an interception. So maybe that something like that could have happened again. I don't know. I do think the Chiefs defense is not as good as the Rams. So
and to think that the Rams lost to the 49ers this week. Therefore, that makes the 49ers better than Tampa Bay.
Obviously, there's no doubt. It's proven. It's done.
It's proven. Also, I think we need to shout out Mr. Mike Evans. I don't know if you guys saw that touchdown catch where he literally had like 5 guys on him and still managed to power into the end zone. But most guys in the NFL cannot do that. And that was really impressive because in that game, he had 2 drops that were really big. And then he had that touchdown. And he was like, well, I made up for it.
Yeah.
Or was that against the Rams?
That was against the Rams.
Well, either way, he's still really good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They are very talented. And I think once Bruce Arians started figuring out what was working, it was really clicking for Tampa. But at the beginning, they looked rough. And against Kansas City, against any team, but especially Kansas City, you can't go down 17-0. You just can't do that and then try to play comeback the whole time. Kansas City's offense is just too good, and they're just going to keep rolling. And Tampa Bay's defense isn't bad. They were able to get some stops when they needed it, especially when they were making that comeback. But in the end, they weren't able to stop the Chiefs. And I just think in this game, the better team won it. Like, I don't see why everyone is saying the building's on fire, everything's going wrong. Fans, I think you just need to calm down and just see how the rest of the season plays. They're not in a great place right now, but they're still in a good spot to make the playoffs. I think if Tampa just makes the playoffs, everything from the regular season no longer matters. It's about winning those games. So I think right now they just need to make the playoffs and then work on getting things clicking. And once they get that done, we'll see what they can do.
The only team who can come back from multiple touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs is obviously the Indianapolis Colts led by Andrew Luck in the playoffs. That's all I have to say.
May have been pre-Mahomes Chiefs, but yeah, I mean, it
doesn't matter.
It was a very
you
good
didn't specify. You just said the Chiefs.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that. It was a heck of a game by Luck. I have no shame in admitting that. So,
well, I think we can officially say that the baton for king of the NFL has been passed from Brady to Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. Brady's still the GOAT right now, but...
yeah. As much as it pains me to admit it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean...
But Patrick Mahomes is just something else, dude. He literally plays like I play with him on Madden. Can't say that about many players.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, what a What a guy. But so now our next section, we've got hot take of the week.
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Hopefully that's not copyrighted.
If you make the noise, maybe not. Maybe won't get demonetized. So
I'll put a noise in there instead.
all right, fair enough. So hot take of the week today is
via Kevin's son. Shout out to Kevin's son for sending us this hot take.
okay. So the hot take is that the Cowboys will win the pathetic NFC East. They got crushed by Washington. Well, okay. So my opinion with the Cowboys winning the NFC East is that I don't think so. I think they have some talent and they can do some things. And I do think with that Cowboys game versus Washington, it's a little closer than the score indicated. I mean, if it wasn't for McLaurin making that big tackle to save the pick six, we might have a different game. But I still think Washington is going to win the division. I think that a lot of people seem to say the Eagles, but every time I see them, they just don't impress me. At least with Washington, they seemed well coached. They seemed disciplined. They seemed like they have fight in them. And you can tell like their defense is actually a good defense. And Gibson, their running back,
their
he's
D
legit.
line is crazy.
I think Ron Rivera has done a good job with them, even with all the things that he's going through. So, but I mean, I know the Cowboys, I would pick them to honestly be second in that division. It's between them and the Giants, but as of now, I'll give it to the Cowboys. They did upset Minnesota, the game before Thanksgiving, and I thought that was a very good win by them. It was impressive to say the least, but overall, I still think Washington's going to win this one. What do you think, Chelsea?
I'm right there with you. I think what Ron Rivera has been able to do with this Washington team, even after Dwayne Haskins totally failed him, the fact that they are still going out and winning games and being competitive, even if they're winning against bad teams, I don't think anyone thought that they'd do that. All while Ron Rivera has been fighting cancer and has now beat cancer. He rang the bell. We love you, Ron Rivera. Good job beating cancer.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm going to go with Washington also. I think that if the Cowboys had Dak Prescott, it'd be no question. They would automatically be the best team in the NFC East because Dak Prescott, when he plays, is a top 5 quarterback. So, I mean, I think that they'd obviously win if they had Dak Prescott. But, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott has fumble issues. Andy Dalton, the Red Rider, is good, but he's still a backup. You got Amari Cooper and a couple of their other guys who can't really do much without Dak Prescott. So, I mean, I think that the Cowboys will be back next year with Dak. I think that they'll be in the playoff hunt again next year. But this year, I'm going to go with Washington. I don't know. Antonio Gibson is looking really good. I think it's between him and the Jacksonville rookie for best rookie running back this season. I don't think anyone thought Antonio Gibson would be as good as he is, but he's really good. Their D-line is good, one of the best D-lines in the NFL with Chase Young and a couple other guys on there. Montez Sweat on there. You got Terry McLaurin, who is a really good wide receiver. Their line is but it's good enough to get them wins against bad teams. So, I mean, honestly, they're going to get into the playoffs with a losing record. I don't think this is a question anymore. I think everyone knows this, that whoever comes out of that division is going to have a losing record. And if they have a winning record, the best it'll be is 8-8. It's not like it'll be anything impressive, and it's not like they'll make it far in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to go with Washington. I think that they are better than people give them credit for, at least on their D-line and their running back. Imagine them with an actual quarterback. I mean, not that Alex Smith. Shout out to Alex Smith for still playing, because literally I thought he was getting his leg amputated. So it's an amazing story that he's still playing. But I mean, they go out and they draft a quarterback. Ron Rivera, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. If anyone's going to turn this team around, it can be him. We saw what Ron Rivera did for the Panthers. We saw what he did with Cam Newton. We saw him take them to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, Ron Rivera is legit. And they've had all their drama with their franchise this year with the name change and all the stuff that happened with like their higher ups and everything. So that's obviously an issue. But I don't know. I think that the next couple of years, I think that Washington could be a real threat in the NFC if Ron Rivera keeps doing what he's doing. They have a couple of good drafts, pick up some people in free agency. I don't know. I think they could be good. But I'm going to go with them winning the NFC East this year with a losing record instead of the Cowboys. But I think it's obvious the Cowboys would win if they had Dak.
I will say our hot take. I think that something that the person who submitted this hot take said about the Cowboys is that they have a very easy remaining schedule. And so
It's true.
I will say the Cowboys have up next, they have the Ravens, then they have the Bengals, 49ers, Eagles, Giants.
Bengals, Eagles, and Giants are all beatable.
Mm-hmm. And they're all in their division, which helps them. Washington
49ers are beatable if they play bad, but
Washington has the Steelers coming up. Not an easy game one bit. They have the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Eagles. I can kind of see the argument, but I think Washington overall is still a better team because, and also the thing is, like with the Cowboys, they may have that easy remaining schedule, but I mean, other teams are probably looking at that like, oh yeah, it's the Cowboys. They're probably looking at the Cowboys like they're an easy team. So
if I were to play Washington right now, I would be real scared of their D-line and their running back. I'm not really scared of anything that the Cowboys are doing right now. I don't know about you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they haven't played well on offense. They really don't move the ball. I don't know what the trick play was that they called on Thanksgiving. I think they think it was a good play. In my opinion, you were only down by one score with a lot of time left in the game. You can punt the ball there because...
Yeah, I would have punted.
And the reason I say, not because it didn't work, I'm not trying to say that, but here's the thing. Then they punted when they were down 11 with less time left. And so when in about the same situation, I was like, well, yeah, you can't run your trick play anymore because they've already seen it once. When you're down 11 in that kind of situation, I think it makes more sense to do that. But down 4, I think now maybe they didn't trust their defense. Their defense did not play that well in that game. But I mean, you were very close to, your own touchdown, your own end zone. So it's just like, I didn't really get the call. I think I don't think it's a good call. And even if it worked, I don't even know if they win the game. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know. It certainly helped Washington win that game, though.
I think it'll be interesting to see if Mike McCarthy survives the year because they just got him from the Packers. And then everything went down. Dak went out. I don't know what his contract is, but it'll be interesting. I honestly would not be surprised if Jerry Jones fired him because knowing Jerry Jones, he wants perfection 24/7, and he's not getting that from his team right now. So it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe what Jerry Jones should do is hire an actual GM. That might help.
Yeah, I don't think he's been that great of an owner for the Cowboys as far as getting them to wins in the 2000s. He had success in the 90s, and he's been riding off of that ever since. And it's 2020 now. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan,
it was a while ago, Cowboys fans.
If you're a Cowboys fan, you're not really pleased with Jerry Jones. I don't think most of them are. I know he probably wants to win, but the truth is he just hasn't made very good decisions. But you can't fire the owner because they're the ones who own everything. So there's not really much you can do.
This is true.
Anyways, let's move on to our picks for this upcoming week. All right. So
based on last week, I am currently still winning in picks 38-33, but we both got 10 right. So Chris is catching up to me.
We are trying to make a big comeback this year.
We'll see.
All right. Well, first game we got, Saints at Falcons. I've got the Saints in this one. The Falcons did just beat the Raiders into the dirt, but so I do think this could be like a semi-close game, but I still think the Saints are better.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Saints too. Even though the Falcons absolutely crushed the Raiders, which was really surprising. But yeah, I'm still going to go with the Saints. I think Taysom Hill has a rushing touchdown. I don't know if he throws the ball particularly well, but I think he does well enough to help them win. So they get another win without Drew Brees. And by the time Drew Brees gets back, they're sitting pretty in the NFC.
All right. Next game we got here, Browns at Titans. I've got the Browns in this one. I know the Titans are the favorite to win this one, but I think the Browns can make a statement win here in this game because even though they haven't had a ton of great wins over really good teams, I think the Titans are someone that I could see them being able to beat. In some ways, they're similar with a very dominant run game, not a great pass game. So we'll see what happens. I know Titans have A.J. Brown. Browns have Jarvis Landry. So maybe it could be a battle between those two receivers. And I don't know. We'll just see what happens. I think the Browns could do well in this game, and I think they can pull this win out. So I'm going with them.
I'm going to go opposite of you this week. I'm going to pick the Titans. The Titans are going to be riding the wave of beating the Colts without their 6 offensive starters and defensive starters that were all out of the game, which is totally why he rushed for so many yards. I'm not salty. Come on, media, report accurately. But anyways, I'm going to go with the Titans. I think that Derrick Henry is going to have more yards than Nick Chubb. I think he's going to run all over them because I think their defense is sus. I think Tannehill is going to look good. And I think they're going to notch another win against, honestly, a not that intimidating Browns team. Even though the Colts lost to them, I don't want to hear, I hear you people in my head going, the Colts lost to the Browns. What do you mean they're not intimidating? No, I'm talking about this week only. I don't want to talk about that game. That's all I have to say.
Oh, man. we love analysts who don't look into the whole picture. But anyways, we won't get into that right now. Otherwise, Chelsea might.
I'll be posting a video about that later today. So today. So stay tuned for that because it'll be out on the socials. Catch me ranting about how people have a 1 week long memory in the NFL.
Welcome to every fan. Anyways, we've got Lions at Bears. I'm going with the Bears. I think they're not a very good team, but I think they're better than the Lions. I think the Lions are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and they haven't proven me wrong otherwise. So I'm going with the Bears. I think their defense will play very well. I think the offense will play well enough to win the game.
I'm pulling a Chris Wiles this week and going with 2 upset wins. I know I just ragged on the Lions, but the Bears offense is terrible. And I think that if the Lions get off to a quick start against the defense, that the Lions offense won't, or that the Bears offense won't be able to catch up. So I got it as like a 17-10 game for the Lions.
Definitely that type of game, isn't it?
Yeah. They don't score until the 4th quarter, but it takes them 8 minutes for their drive to go like 50 yards down the field. That kind of game.
We could see a very low scoring game here. Next game we got Bengals at Dolphins. I think it'd be really interesting if Joe Burrow was here for the Bengals, but it's really a shame
he isn't because this was supposed to be a rookie face-off.
Yeah, I think this would have been an interesting one at least. I'm going with the Dolphins. I still think T. Higgins will play well for the Bengals, but I think overall the Dolphins are a better team. I think they are a potential playoff team, and I think they will beat the Bengals. So what do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I got the Dolphins again. Tua is going to be starting. Bengals defense is not good. T. Higgins is good. He'll have a touchdown somehow. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I think that their defense is one of the hottest defenses in the league right now. And sometimes when you run into that in the playoffs, that's all you need to lose. So I got Tua.
All right. Next game, we got Jaguars at Vikings. I'm going with the Vikings. They just came off of a good win from them off the Panthers, and the Vikings have looked decent. They lead the league in points scored in the 4th quarter, or at least last week they did, which is crazy. So basically, they kind of don't play that great through the game, and then the fourth they ramp it up, and against Jacksonville, I think that'll carry them over the top.
But Chris, the real question is, should the Vikings have won that game last week?
We'll talk about it in the Instagram post, but maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't. It's the NFL. Anything can happen, right? So I'm being as objective as I can here for anyone listening. I really try to be. So
don't worry, guys. He's actually really mad. He's just doing a good job of hiding it. This week, I got the Vikings. I think Dalvin Cook is going to go off against the Jaguars and have like 3 touchdowns.
All right. Next game, we got Colts at Texans. I'm going with the Colts. I think they're a better team overall than the Texans. And I know the Texans have won now 2 in a row, but I still think the Colts can hit a bounce back game with this one. So, yeah, that's who I'm going with. What about you, Chelsea?
I got the Colts simply because even though they're Bill O'Brien lists, the Texans are still bad. And also, NRG Stadium is T.Y. Hilton's home. I got the Colts in a bounce back, much needed AFC South victory.
All right. Next game, we got Raiders at Jets. I'm going with the Raiders. I know they got crushed against the Falcons, and it was not a good day for them at all. But I think they're better than the Jets. So
that's my justification too. The Raiders are better than the Jets. I'm picking the Raiders.
Sorry, that's not much like analysis, but I don't really know what else we're supposed to say.
I've gone in on the Jets in previous episodes. So if people need analysis, go listen to our other episodes where I go all in on Adam Gase.
Mm-hmm. Episode 1 was just a ripping of the Jets in a lot of ways.
To be fair, they deserved it.
Maybe so. I think the media rips them enough for us, maybe. But
well, not like ESPN's going to hear this episode, probably.
I mean, if they do, shout out. Would love to have you on the show. So
yeah, Sage Steele, join us. Scott Van Pelt, hit me up.
Exactly. Stephen A. We'd love to have some debate.
Get on here and talk about the Cowboys with us.
Oh, man. All right. Next game, we got Giants at Seahawks. I'm going with the Seahawks. They just had a good win against Philadelphia last night. They didn't look superb, but I mean, a win is a win in the NFL. So I think
unless you're the Jets.
Well, you have to win it first. So the Seahawks, I think DK Metcalf will have another good game. And I think the Giants will make this game competitive, though. That's what I will say for them. So
I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson is going to have a great game. And hopefully Chris Carson has like 8 touchdowns so I can make it to the playoffs in my fantasy league.
You never know in the NFL. Next game we got here, Rams at Cardinals. I'm going with the Rams. I think they look like a legit Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're top tier, not as good as the Saints, but I still think they're very good. And I think they're a little bit underrated by some people. I think their defense is good. I think they have a good coach. I mean, they've been to a Super Bowl before, and they're not too far off of that. So I could see them making a real playoff run. And the Cardinals haven't looked that great recently. So I'm going with the Rams on this one.
Chelsea's picking another upset pick. I'm going with the Cardinals simply because the Rams are confusing me. They go out, they beat Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and then they go and they get crushed by the 49ers, who don't even have half their team because of injuries. I really don't know what to think. I think that the Rams are good. I think they have an issue of playing down to their competition. But, I am going to go with Cardinals. I think that it has been too many weeks for Murray since he's had a stellar game, and I think he's going to have a stellar game. And I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to pull a touchdown in via mossing. He's going to pull DK Metcalf this week.
All right. Next game, we got Patriots at Chargers. I'm going with the Patriots. I think they've looked okay. They haven't looked overall in this season. They haven't been great, but the Chargers aren't very good. I know Herbert's been playing well, but they're in every game, but they don't seem to ever win them. Now watch them win this one just because I said that. But out of gut feeling, I got to go for the Patriots on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots too. I think that Cam Newton will not have a great game, but I think it'll be good enough to win.
All right. Eagles at Packers. Going with the Packers. Every time I see the Eagles, I am unimpressed. I'm just going to be honest. Every time I watch them, it just seems like the offense just looks awful. And their defense isn't that bad. I mean, they were able to hold Seattle to not that many points, but Seattle didn't score 30 on them, and which isn't that bad in the NFL, but I don't like the Eagles offense. I don't like them winning the division, not because I don't like the team as a whole, but when I see them, it just always looks bad. And until they prove to me otherwise, I'm going to pick against them. So I'm going with the Packers on this one. I think they're a better team than the Eagles. And I think that the Packers offense is going to lead them to a good game.
Yeah, I got the Packers too because Aaron Rodgers.
I think that is a fair assessment. All right, next game, Broncos at Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think that Mahomes, I mean, he's on a different level. Him and Tyreek are really hitting well together. And I don't know if they'll win out the rest of the season and go 15-1. I wouldn't be 100%. I wouldn't be fully surprised about it, but I think they'll lose at some point, but I don't think it'll be this game.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs too, but the Broncos will have a real quarterback in this game.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, Mahomes is just too good.
Mm-hmm. And so next game we have here, Washington playing the Steelers. Even though we praised Washington and said they would probably win the division, I'm going to go with the Steelers. They're undefeated. They're a legit team. I don't even think we talk about them enough about how good they are. They're not even the favorites right now, and they're undefeated.
But have they played anyone good outside of the sus Ravens?
Maybe they haven't played the strongest schedule, but in my opinion, you can't. At this point, they're legit. Like if you,
I'm not saying they're legit. I'm just saying that they would get crushed by the Chiefs.
Oof. So you think if they play in the playoffs, the Steelers are getting crushed?
Oh, absolutely. I could see the Chiefs walloping them like 30-17. Like they have Minka Fitzpatrick and they have TJ Watt and they have Cam Hayward and they have a great defense, but they're not going to beat Patrick Mahomes. They're just not. No one's going to. Unless like the TV announcers have been saying this whole week, the only team that's going to beat the Chiefs is the Chiefs. If the Chiefs play up to their potential, no one's going to beat them. If they play down, they'll get beat. But if they play the way that they actually should, no one's going to beat them. The Steelers are good, but are people really going to argue against the Chiefs? Honestly, that's just my opinion. But I got the Chiefs. Yep, except Broncos. They have a real quarterback this week. Woohoo! So go Broncos. But yeah, I still got the Chiefs.
Well, I mean, for the Washington Steelers game, I got Steelers for this one, and then
forgot we were doing that one.
It's all good.
The Steelers.
No worries. Hey, people don't realize
I just got high on the Chiefs.
That's okay. People don't realize sometimes
Steelers.
This is hard when you're talking for this long or trying to get things. Sometimes, you mess up with your words or your thoughts, so it happens. But
I got the Steelers.
Yeah.
Almost said go Steelers. That would be like blasphemous.
All right. Next game we got here, Bills at 49ers. I'm going with the Bills. I think that overall the 49ers, they're not a terrible team, but I'm picking the Bills for this game. So
again, Chelsea with the upset. I'm picking the 49ers. They just went out and beat a playoff caliber team in the Rams. And I think that the Rams and the Bills are about the same amount of good. So I think the 49ers are going to go out at home and get another win.
You're really trying to blow me out this week. You're trying to
I
use
really
these
am.
upside.
Watch me regret it and then win like one game.
All right. Well, hey, this is either my comeback week, everyone, or this is my epic failure week. So we'll see what happens. Next game, or the last game we have here, are the Cowboys at the Ravens. I'm going the Ravens. We still haven't seen them play their game yet as of recording this. We record every Tuesday. So
That's true.
we haven't seen them play
There'll be
their
Lamar
game yet.
Jackson lists also. But fun fact, their running backs will be back. The whole reason this game got pushed, the running backs have been out long enough to be able to play. So they'll be playing.
Well, we'll see what happens. I think it could be an interesting game, but I'm going with the Ravens.
I got the Ravens because the Cowboys are bad. Even if Lamar is still out, even if the running backs are out, even if half their defense is out, I still got the Ravens.
Dang.
Sorry, Cowboys. I'm just not impressed. But anyways, that's our game picks, guys. Thanks for listening. Tune back in next Tuesday for more content. Or I guess next Wednesday, since we publish on Wednesdays now. Wednesdays at noon. Hit us up wherever you listen to podcasts, except on Apple, because we're not on there yet. However, we're about to be. But really, hit us up on Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at _LC_football_, Instagram at LaunchCodesFootball, and our YouTube channel, LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.